feel it, I examine it, there's a rule that I broke of some sort, we generate rules all the time. I decide to follow the rule, refine the rule, and then move on. This is development. Once we start doing that, that defensive line stops getting sicker and starts getting healthier. And as it gets healthier in very, very cool ways. And so everybody gets pissed off at adolescents because they're uncaring. At least they appear uncaring. Now, the circuits that have to do with self-reflection and empathy are the frontal part, the orbital frontal cortex. Okay? These circuits mature last. Okay, so, and also the ability to pause before action, that's there too. That's maturing late. So adolescents, and so that means when adolescents enter altered states of consciousness, they have diminished capacities, much less than adults. And adults also have these problems also. And so they appear uncaring because they enter states where they're impulsive. And they appear like they don't care about other people. And they don't to a certain extent. So our brains are continuing to develop. But once we start paying attention to these, and pay attention particularly to shame, we can start following the rule, refining the rule, letting go, moving on. And as we do that, the rules get more sophisticated. Just like it's okay to knock kids down in football, but it's not okay to knock your sister down, then later it's okay to tell somebody that I'm angry at them, but not okay to insult them. And then later on, it's all right to tell somebody that they made a mistake, but to do it with a loving tone. And then later on, it's okay when someone tells me that I made a mistake and I have an impulse to be cruel to them. And instead I go, oh, I have an impulse to be cruel, but what's valid about that? I did break the rule, I will find it. And the new standard is I will change that, and I will tell them I appreciate them for pointing out this thing. Now, our right hemisphere does emotional regulation. If you consciously do an emotional regulation thing a bunch of times, I don't know how many. I assume with some people it's 4 or 5, and some people it's 4 or 5,000. For instance, my daughter used to drop a towel on the floor in the bathroom after she took a shower. And so I said, well, Zoe, could you pick your towel up? She was 12. Pick the towel up after you're done. Don't leave your wet towel on the floor. Okay, Daddy. Okay, so the 8th time I had this conversation with her, there was a little bit of contempt in my voice. Now, my daughter's nervous system is wired that if somebody speaks to her with contempt, I taught her this, she doesn't encode any memory. She blanks them out. Well, so the 200th time I told her this, I'm not exaggerating, it still wasn't working. The 300th time I told her this, and it wasn't working, it took me a while to learn too. I went, she's not encoding the memory. And so something about my delivery is wrong. Okay? Now, I had embarrassment about that. And I went, no, that's not it. It's because she's being, you see, started attacking her. Well, no, let's assume that I'm not delivering it right. So then I focused on feeling love in my heart, feeling warmth, thinking of her when she was just a little baby and everybody loved her like that. I'd say, Zoe, the cat's on the floor. And so when I would do that, after the 4th time of that, she said, oh, Daddy, I'm sorry. We hadn't gotten, I forgot. Oh, that's okay, sweetheart. Just try to remember. Do your best to remember. About 15 times later, she was picking up the towel about half the time. Okay? This is my own little social experiment in my family. And, there's other stuff going on that was more significant than this. But, the towel thing really caught my attention. Now, I couldn't deal with the shame of talking contemptuously with my daughter, and so I blamed her for a long time before I realized I was making a mistake. And then, I took it, okay, I screwed up. I'm not supposed to make these mistakes. I did. Adjusted. And then things changed, and I became a better parent. I became a more caring person. Even more importantly, I began to notice when I used contemptuous tones with anybody. Because